Welcome, adventurers, to Fables of the Forge,
I'm Bazar.
and I'm Ragnar.
Each week, we delve into the stories that shape heroes and break worlds. Each arc is a legend reforged. Each session is a new chapter in the saga.
Whether you're a dungeon master, a player, or you just love a good story, grab your dice, pour a drink, and join us at the Forge.
This is Fables of the Forge.
Hello! I'm Ragnarlock. Ragnar. Whatever you want to call me. Shit, I've been a DM for how long now? 9 years? Something like that. 9 years? Damn, that's a long time. Been playing D&D
Right.
for 10. So you can tell that I got to play for at least 1 year before before I got stuck DMing.
Forever DMing.
Yep. I like D&D.
I like it. Yeah, I love D&D. Well, I'll do mine. I'm Bazar. Baz, Zar, Daddy, whatever you really feel like calling me. But I want to say I've been playing D&D for about 6-7 years now. I've been DMing for about 5 of that. I'm going to give that the rough estimate. I play anything from D&D 5th edition 5.5 to Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, Daggerheart, both Cyberpunk 2020 and Cyberpunk Red. I'm trying to think of other ones, but really I think that's the grand scheme of things. But I've really enjoyed kind of branching out and trying out different RPG systems. I mainly like my main focus and bread and butter is D&D, obviously, is kind of why we're here. But I'm a little dice goblin as well. Anything that I can get my hands on, I will. I absolutely delight in the character driven storytelling and the overarching big arcs and huge character stories. But most of all, I enjoy doing this, and I enjoy viewers like you.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
And also Batman. I would say Batman. I'm a big fan of DC and Marvel and all kinds.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and see, that's what's funny is even in my chair, my Joker chair, big Joker poster. I used to have before it tore on, we moved and I had a Joker poster that was a vote for me or I'll kill you. And I was like, oh. But it was an old comic style thing.
Oh, yes. I'm boring. I've only ever played realistically D&D 5e. And I've put a lot of all of my passion into that craft, I think, into just that one. And that's like all I know. I bleed that shit right now, I think. So I'm kind of boring. I haven't played Cthulhu. I know what it is.
I wouldn't say that's boring. If anything, that's consistent. I never switched off, so I will say, admittedly, I've never done long form campaigns in all those other systems. I've only ever done long form campaigns in Dungeons and Dragons, but I've always wanted to try doing a long form campaign in one of those other systems just to see what that's like. Because when you run a long D&D game, it really means something. The basis of what we're here for to talk about is what we've learned along the way. Whereas we've basically done one shot format for every other system I've ever played in, where Daggerheart, Call of Cthulhu, Cyberpunk, especially. But yeah, I've only ever done long form campaigns that were meaningful to me, at least in the way of D&D. So I wouldn't say that's boring as much as I'd like to say that that's like you're hella consistent in that.
I try to be. It's like with any kind of profession, I guess, because that's basically what I'm trying to make it, right? It's trying to make it a profession. But I don't know. I think that being able to put so much time and effort into world building, I wouldn't even say just DMing. I would just say world building in general. Realistically, narrative world building for sure, which can be used in almost anything. You can take the narrative world building into anything, right? Daggerheart. I'm not sure how Cthulhu works entirely. Probably that. D&D. I've made my own things a couple times. We had a fun story actually. We had a cyclone run through our state, and it completely wiped out our
Oh,
internet, our power. We had nothing for like 2 weeks, which is minuscule in comparison to what a lot of people have dealt with in places that get them regularly. We don't get them regularly. This was the first time that I've ever been in a cyclone, right? We were out of power for like 2 weeks, and we had nothing to do. And I was like, oh, well, like we've got D&D, it's there. But then I was just like, oh, we want something real quick that we can play while we're driving in the car, right? Super quick. So I made this little thing where it's just like you roll a d20, and it's kind of just like the roll is the roll, how you do. And you use yourself for your own stats, like whatever professions you're good in. So, like Gucci, for example, my best mate, he was playing himself as a mechanic because that's what he wanted. That's what he's, what he's good. But he had this bionicle arm that could. His special ability was like his hand could turn into any tool that was necessary, any physical like mechanical tool. Um,
right.
we had this other guy who wanted to play like a marshal, like a soldier, basically. And he has his profession, which was firearms and all that kind of stuff. And it was a
Right.
post-apocalyptic thing where the zombies were these like cybernetic hive monsters that were people but with bionic like augmentation. So like Cyberpunk 2077 mixed with zombies,
Yep.
which was kind of fucking cool. I'm not gonna lie, it was so cool. And being able to throw those things, it was really fun. It was super quick, super easy, and it's 1d20 tossed, rolled, done. That was fun. But we built the whole world off of that. That was really cool.
I love that.
Modern day.
There's some funny things about that I was writing down just because there's like so many things I could go into. So it was like times when we were playing something cool and like in an unconventional setting. I've talked about it before on my streams, but one of my favorite one shots I ever did my entire life, I will monument this as like this was the greatest time. Um, was we got in the car and we went to we my buddy has a house on the river which is about 6.5 hours away from us.
Yeah.
So we were driving, and I'd say within 30 minutes, somebody cracked the joke of being like, "Hey, Baz, you should run some D&D." And I was like, "Give me," and I was like, "Are you serious?" And they're like, everybody in the car is like, "Yeah, actually, that'd be cool." I'm sitting in the back seat, and I remember just being like, "Give me about 10 minutes." And so what I did is I went very quickly. I started scrolling around, looking at some content stuff, and what I ended up doing um, was I ran this awesome, really fun one shot on that I found on DM's Guild. I'm struggling to remember the name. But I ran
Not
that.
good as
I
DM's Guild.
pre-generated characters. Um, I generated pre-generated characters, and then my best friend was sitting up front. I call him Ramsey. He's like, "Hey, can I just play my character that I play every week?" And I was like, "Yeah, if you know him off your lid, go for it." And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely, I do. I've been playing him for like 2 years now." So he played. We did dice rolls via our phones.
Mhm.
And I mean, dude, from start to finish, we finished that thing up as we drove into the driveway. And I won't
Nice.
lie, that was one of those really good moments for me where I was like, "This was a lot of fun." Because talk about a captive audience, nobody can go anywhere, no bathroom breaks. I mean, unless we're stopping, you know? And,
No.
whenever traffic got, like, really bad, like, we would stop for a little bit and be like, "Okay." Like, well, yeah, I'd slow down a little bit in storytelling and whatnot. Um, but it was so much fun.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. I think it's so good, and it kind of goes to show. It shows you how flexible you can be in the realm of world building when you do things like that. I think those spontaneous things, man, they really get things, and they give you ideas for like real time campaigns. It's so good. It's so good.
It inspired such a cool monster I wanna throw at it. Again, it was an invisible stalker, and I don't know if you've ever looked up one of those, but at some point you should. They're a lot of fun. Because they're really hard to find, and obviously.
Mm.
I wanna say it was invisible stalker, but, there was
As
that,
in,
and
like the panther.
then no, as in like it was a I think it was like I'm struggling to remember, but it was a monstrosity, I believe.
Mm.
Um, essentially it's something that's translucent, and can like go into water and just not be found.
Disappear. Yeah.
So, yep. And this thing was operating through the sewers. So it was like going through sewers and coming out through people's pipes and stuff, to kill
Damn.
people. It was like, oh, so cool.
Damn.
Um, but and then you mentioned zombie cyberpunk.
Love it.
There's always been one thing. If I did a long
Love
form campaign where I'd love to introduce a actual virus that infected people's
like
cybernetics,
malware
and
virus. Yeah, dude.
malware virus that did that. I would love to do something like that.
Yeah. That's basically what happened in that big old thing. Because that was like because we had no internet, no power for a while. We ended up playing it for like a week and just continued it, and we never even finished it. And like still today, I get told they want to switch back.
But yeah, so I thought that was really cool. Um, I'll say this: what was your first session ever? Do you
As a
remember it?
player, it was as a player. My first session.
Yeah,
It
we'll
was
just say
as a
your
player.
first interaction with D&D ever.
Ooh, my first interaction wasn't the best. To be honest with you, it wasn't the best. Which kind of, it would normally have pushed people away, but it kind of made me want to experience it properly. What happened
Right.
was went to a friend's house. It was just the day after work. Went to a friend's house with a bunch of other coworkers, and we sat down in this really dark room. The setting was cool as hell, but the DM was new, and he didn't know what he was doing, and nor did we know what we were doing. We were all brand new, right? So we sat
Right.
down, and I remember I got given a pre-made character named Clovis, and he was a noble paladin.
Ooh.
Now I've never ever role played before. Never played a TTRPG at this
Right.
time. At this stage, I was like 16 maybe, and sat down and we went through the woods. And I remember the woods being just like this super scary thing. And then we had to kick down a random cabin door. And this is very vague memory. We had to break down a cabin door because there was stairs that were heading down underground to go and handle something in the Underdark. And it was just like an entrance to it, right? Well, one of those hotspot points. And an owl bear has decided to nest inside that thing. So we had to go in and fight an owl bear in close quarter combat. Mind you, I didn't know
What
what the
level?
fuck I was doing. We were level 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Like we didn't know what we were doing though. So I was like, I hit this thing. I smacked this thing. All right, cool. And then I felt the blood for it, and I was like, ooh, like, okay. I want to grab my sword and swipe up and try to decapitate this owlbear in one clean sweep. And he goes, and the DM goes, you can't do that. The book says that it has this many hit points. I was like, oh damn, okay, and that's fair enough. Can I roll to see if I do something? And he's like, yeah, 100%. So I rolled to make an attack, and it was a natural 20. It was great. It was awesome. Didn't kill it. He's like, cool,
Right.
yeah. He's like, you cut it, and that's kind of where it was left off. And it's not the DM's fault. He was brand new to DMing, right? Not the DM's fault. But I was just like, I'm missing something, and I know that I'm missing something. Like I'm missing an experience here. And like I said, not his fault, but there is obviously something that I'm missing. I was like, I want the experience. I want to know what it is that's not there for me right now. So then I went off and it was funny enough. I was playing League of Legends actually, and
Fair.
I was talking a lot of smack in this game. I was talking a lot of smack in this game, and then I was me and this other guy were going back and forth, and I was like, "Fuck you," and he's like, "No, fuck you," and I was back and forth, just going off at each other. And then I messaged him after. I was like, you know what? I'm sorry. Like I added him as a friend. I was like, I'm sorry for how I spoke to you. I'm genuinely sorry. I feel like shit. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. And he goes, you know what? Me too. I apologize too. Weirdest thing that gamers have ever done, right? But yeah,
Right.
I messaged him and I was like, do you want to get in a game and just vibe out for a minute? And because I feel like I owe you a little bit more than this. And he goes, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
So duoed support and ADC bot lane, and it was like it was the best experience. We duoed up and we were dominating that game. Mind you, we were iron, but we were dominating that game. And he goes, I was like, "What are you doing tonight?" And he's like, "Oh, I got D&D." And I was like, "Really?"
Oh.
And he's like, "Yeah, I play it online." I was like, really? And he goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm the DM. I was like, oh, really?
Uh,
And I was like, I've always wanted to. And he's like, all right. I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? What do you mean? All right. And he's
oh
like, all right,
man.
I'll get you in one. Let's do it. And I was like, hell yeah. He's like, have you got any other friends that want to play? I was like, not really. He's like, cool. I might have one that could play. I was like,
Yeah.
awesome, cool. So we got his friend, we got me in, and he's like, and then he sat down with me in a call, right? And he's like, what kind of character do you want to play? And I was like, uh,
What are my options?
I was like, what do I do here? Like, what am I doing? Um, and he goes, well, like you can use anything for inspiration. You can use anime, cartoons, your brain, like whatever you want, whatever your mind can come up with. And I was like, can I make Kratos from like God of War? And he's like, yeah, yeah, 100%. And so I based my character off of old school Kratos, right? Monster, absolute monster. And then as time progressed, I got this experience. One of the best DMs I've ever had, by the way, in my life, that I've ever seen. Period. He sat down and he went like full step by step how I can implement Kratos into his world in the best possible ways. Being like, because the idea behind Kratos, my idea of Kratos was obviously he got tricked by Ares to kill his family, so he would focus more on the war, yada yada yada.
Right.
Wanted to be the general of war, and in the same aspect, Kratos in this realm was the chief of a tribe called the Cathalavi, which is where the Cathalavi came from.
Sounds familiar.
Yep. And I was like, we're gonna lose this upcoming war. So I made a deal with Asmodeus for power.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
For power. And in return, I would do his bidding. And he thought that my family was going to get in the way. I had a wife and a child, and it didn't go so well. I got tricked, and I thought that these two individuals were soldiers of war, and I fought them and I killed them. Ended up
Yep.
being my family, and from that moment on, I was like, "This is it." Like now, this is it. There's the connection. And then ever since that moment, he swore to kill Asmodeus from the beginning. And that campaign lasted 3 years. 3 full years. We didn't get to finish that campaign. But let me tell you, it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in D&D. And that was my first ever campaign.
That's
First
cool.
ever campaign. That DM was amazing. Like he was the best, and he's still like in my heart and soul, I think he's like one of the best, hands down. And I took a lot of inspiration from him, from how I learned how to DM. But yeah, so good. I use a lot of his
That's
NPCs as inspiration for mine. It's really good.
that's super cool.
Yeah.
The first in the first D&D that we I was ever introduced to, um of course it was we had all graduated from high school, and it was my same group of friends that I'd been friends with in high school, and we were nerdy in high school. I remember very fondly being like one of the popular nerds. But at one point it was mentioned, it was like, man, it'd be kind of cool if we ever played like Dungeons and Dragons, like, oh, yeah, maybe we, now we won't get like bullied
Yeah.
for it or anything. And I was like, I mean, yeah, we're out of high school. It doesn't matter anymore what people think. So, and eventually what that turned into is my best friend picked up the Lost Mines of Fandelver. It was like, hey, y'all want to meet at my place and we'll play. And we're like, hell yeah, let's do it. And so we went.
Yeah.
We took the pre-generated characters out. I played the rogue who was in there. My best friend DM'd for it, and we didn't know anything about it. We didn't read any rules. We didn't do anything. We got out there. He kind of flipped over through the book, read everything he wanted to read out of it, and was like, okay, this is the mission. This is the people. These are the NPCs. And like we went through it, and I remember the funniest thing was that our cleric, man, you want to talk about the strongest we've ever had a cleric, was whenever we didn't know how spell slots worked. So our cleric was just guiding bolt, just over and over, like, and in healing, like multiple. Man, I was like, okay, I feel like we're doing something wrong here. And then we critted on every 20 or above we would roll, because we had heard the term of the nat 20. It's like, well, what happens if you roll
Yeah.
above a 20? And we couldn't find any quick rulings about it. We
Oh.
were just like, so Crit Central. I'm telling you, we didn't finish that module, but by God, we killed the hell out of everything we ran across. Um,
How good.
it was so much fun, but we played it and we're like, that was cool. That was fun. Like, we should do this again sometime. And the thing that always happens with D&D groups, especially whenever you're not hooked yet,
Planning.
where it just didn't happen.
Yep.
But we went, and when we traveled, me and my buddy a couple months later were traveling to go pick up a graphics card, and we on the way down there we were listening to a D&D podcast. Um, and it was a D&D live play of it was How Friends Roll. So much love to you guys. I hope you're still doing well. But we listened to them, and just listening to them play was so much fun. We
Yeah.
laughed, we enjoyed the character stories, and we were like, when we were driving, we went and got the graphics card, and we were coming back. Me and him both said, you know what? Let's do this. When we get home, we'll fire up Roll20. We'll try to find ourselves a game, and we'll play. We'll play online because that seems to be kind of what's the easiest.
Yep.
And so I started. My official start was doing Roll20 D&D, and I had a lot of fun with it. I had a good group of people that taught me how to play. They were a bit old school, and that's not a bad thing. It's just so they were much more dungeon crawly. Not a lot of role play that happened. We had some, so like that was how I was introduced to role play by some of the both the DM was great. His son did a lot of role play, and then others would also role play just a little bit, but they were much more combat centric.
Yep.
And it was a lot of really good. That was my good inspiration. I played with them for about a year or so, and then finally one day, I we were my brother-in-law was like, "Hey, I've got some people that are interested in D&D, and we need a place to play. Could we play at your house?" And I was like, "Yes, I'd love to play in person. I've never done that before. It seems like a really fun thing to
Hell
do." And
yeah.
he's like, I was hoping you would because like you have some experience in it. I was like, yeah, I have been playing for about a year online, so I kind of know my way around stuff. And so I was like, yeah, let's have it at my house. And we all gathered together at our place and with my group of friends. And and we played. That was our first introduction to the setting. And I was going to point at my map, but you can't see it due to the frame. But that's where we started this map. Was we said, hey, this is he did a homebrew one shot. We made characters for it. I
Mm.
made my first barbarian. I made a character because I'd been playing for so long. So long, good lord. At that point, I had more knowledge than other people, so I played a barbarian, who I played Liam. He's one of the few characters I actually have art of, and I'd have to find it. But that was back whenever the Warforged had the different classes, or the different I don't remember variants. So I played a
Yeah,
Warforged
yeah.
Juggernaut, and I had a lot of fun with him. I had a really, really, really cool story that we told where it's in the lore that they don't know how long Warforged live, and they don't know if Warforged
Yeah.
have souls. And so we played with both of those elements, where we figured out that Liam, due to some circumstances, was actually getting towards the end of his life, and the only reason he had become sentient because of that, where basically the
Uh,
magic that made him was starting to dampen and was starting to wane, and so he was only about he was in his 3 to 400s, but he had only been kind of sentient for about 30 years, and had a moment. The moment he became sentient is whenever he realized he had done something that he didn't like. Whenever he wiped out a village and then realized that it
yeah.
wasn't soldiers he was going through, it was villagers, and he went back and basically took revenge against his commanding officers of the mercenary unit he worked for. So he
Yep.
made sure that he burned all his bridges and then left. And he was a really, really, really fun character. And
Sounds fun.
eventually, dude, it was good. And then eventually we switched gears, because my brother-in-law, he was like, hey, I really want to play. And so what we did is we did a really smooth handoff of he handed the reins over to my best friend, and we moved up a country into the actual place where we ran our first D&D campaign. And that was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. We kept the characters, but they traveled north into this next spot. And that was one of those cool ones where I was like, this would be kind of cool to keep
The
doing something like
freedom
that,
of
where you
world
just
building, man.
it was good. We played him. I actually ended up at one point. I was like, hey, I'd like to have the party experience character death, and so I killed off Liam for like a few sessions. It was a cool choice narratively, and then they were like, I was thinking, I was like, if they want to get him reforged, I will play him again. But if they don't want to go through that, because finding a forge is really difficult because they're outlawed. And so I was essentially it was like, hey, it depends on what the party wants. If they were to try to find a way, I'll still play them. But if not, I'll bring in somebody else. I'll play them.
Yep.
And they did. They were heartbroken whenever he died. And so they were like, we are not stopping until we can find a way to bring him back.
Yeah,
And I was like, okay,
dude.
okay, I'll keep him. And he was a fun character, and we ended up ending that campaign a little early. Just we got to a natural spot where we had this funny part where there was a division that was fixing to happen, and an in character division where it's like multiple people are fixing to have to go and do these different tasks, and it would be better if we kind of like split up.
Mm.
And so narratively, we were like, hey, I'm going to go with this person, they're going to go with that person, and they're going to go with that person. And then we narratively we split apart to go do different things. And that's where that campaign actually ended. And I picked up my first actual campaign, which was the my first Legends of Oceania campaign. So which was 3 years long. So it's funny, I wrote down 3 years because I kind of almost wonder,
It's
is that like the lifeblood of
crazy.
a campaign?
Yeah, yeah. It must be right because like we didn't. I didn't get to finish my campaign. I didn't know. I didn't get to finish my campaign, my 3 year long campaign. But my DM at the time did a solid and was like, this is the plan that I had for your characters, and like this is what I had already." And I was like, "Can we like can you sit down and tell me tell me the story of what happens?" And like I got it, and to this day I won't ever speak about it because like it's
It's special.
maybe one day, but it is special. It is very very special to me. And he did it. He sat down with each of us as players one on one and told us all the outcomes for our characters
Ooh,
specifically. And some people got brought into the one on ones because it involved them at the same time. But yeah, yeah,
that's
there
cool.
was what a really cool concept, especially for that campaign was, and what I bring into campaigns today, which you'll recognize it in a moment once I explain it, was parenthood. Kratos, by the end of that campaign, was old, and it was at the stage of when 2018 God of War Ragnarok came out.
Mm,
Throughout that campaign, he was already old man, right? He was already an old man at this stage because that's where he was. Um, but one of the other players was a character named Salem, and she was she was trapped and kept um as a member of a circus because she was a sorceress, but a very
okay.
interesting one. She was a changeling sorceress, so very much so
Ooh.
one of a kind kind of thing in this world. And she escaped with her little sister Moon. What's her name? So Salem and Moon. And the Moon was an NPC, not an actual player character. But they were running in the woods, and all of a sudden they ran into Kratos, who was living in a hut, literally just doing his thing, living in a hut in the woods, chopping up wood, cooking food on a fire pyre, and that was it. And they ran into him uh, while they were getting chased by these four individuals, Dragonborn, like warrior, and all that kind of stuff. Kratos saw the girls and was like
Hmm.
immediately hit with flashbacks of his daughter,
Yeah.
immediately, and was like, "I'm not doing this again," and kind of just like stopped and stood in front. And that moment of like, as a player, experiencing that feeling of just like, this is my time to defend. This is my time. This is me. Step forward.
Yeah.
Ended up slicing one of the dude's heads off, and then the other guy ran away. And as he's running away, he's just like looking back, and I got a good look at him throughout the campaign. He kept popping up every now and then, and I was like, it was really fun. But like ever since that, like Kratos, I almost said I Kratos raised those two girls, and then once they got of age, they split off. So like Salem stayed with Kratos, but Moon went off and did her own thing. And then add moments, years go by in the campaign, and we now have Kai, and then we have Yavira, and then it turns out that fate brought us all together because we were all part of something so much greater, as they are in campaigns, right? But the idea was that each of us was born with the soul of a Titan inside us. So Kratos was born worshipping Kavaki, the ram god of the Goliaths, right? But realistically, whenever he's tried to speak to Kavaki, there was no answer for a long time. But there was an answer from something. And it was the mountain, Zortorian, the primordial of Earth.
Okay.
Of the earth, right? Of the ground, of the mountains. And then Salem had the primordial, the phoenix in her. So whatever, like she was fire incarnate, literally. And then we had Kai, who was the bastion of storms. Like he had the oldest Titan within him, and then Yavira, who had the Leviathan in her, and she could control the seas. By the end of the campaign, like it was so well built up. But throughout the whole time, the parenthood feeling of like Kratos is the oldest, but not only the oldest, he's got the most experience. It was done in a way that it wasn't like I'm taking away your player agency as another player. It was just a paternal thing. Like if somebody hit one of the other players, it was like, oh shit, snap. And the other players would go along with it though as well. Like if like Kratos would be standing outside, he's an 8-foot tall Goliath, yada yada yada, massive big boy, and just in a moment, the other players like Kai or Salem, or whatever, would be talking to another guy, and they would be like, I wouldn't even try it if I were you. And then like camera shift to the background where there's this giant silhouette of a man, and it's just like roll intimidation, roll advantage, and then it's just kind of like, okay. And we played such a good part in it. You know what I mean? And then it's just like the disappointment thing. Like, I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. Like that whole situation. Right. It was so good. It was so good. Like the dynamic between me and the players, it was done right. And I feel like a lot of times you can get it wrong. A lot of times. But
oh yeah.
But
it almost is like
right
you can't force that.
No, cannot force it.
You
no way.
Because I've been in a similar situation where the first time I ever ran my D&D campaign, we had an elf who she was about 120, which translates to roughly, hey, she's young for elves and like, but she's an adult. And then we had Tanash, and he was like 20. Then you had Agnus, who was the original. He was our original paladin that we ever, like, first paladin I ever ran a campaign for. And Agnus was a halfling, an Oath of Vengeance halfling paladin. And he was not always this. He was a jeweler in his past life before something terrible happened to him. And people from a convent saved him, a convent of Helm. And so he was the old man. He was like, actually, like, he was
had
really
that, like,
close
paternal figure, like, or feeling.
And he would be silly at times. Just like as you do in D&D. But at the end of the day, what kind of was cool is as the campaign shifted and as more people joined, you had individuals who still saw Agnus as he's the paladin, he's the old man, and he, with him doing these things and the way that my buddy would play him, at a certain point, he sort of was the speaking. I mean, granted, your charisma, anyways, but you have this individual who would he was the man in charge. If he wanted to do something, or if he said, let's do this, it was held with reverence. It wasn't something that like, oh, well, hey, listen, Agnew said we're going to do this, so me, DM, say you have to do that. No, it was very much he would establish, like, I think we should do this. And he was considered wise, and he was considered very intelligent and he was a natural leader of the party where he made the good decisions.
He was the papa of the group.
He was, and he was. I want to say that Agnes was lawful good, but I might be wrong about that. He may have been neutral good at a certain point. It's because Oath of Vengeance is very difficult to get lawful good with because you're kind of the Dark Knight. But we explored some really cool ways of doing that, having him be in his paladinhood,
Yeah.
and it never really, it never didn't always come off as very religious. It was much more like, no, he was just the cool, like he was very cool, and it was always funny. You chuckle at the first thought of a halfling paladin in black plate, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like I mean, he was a force to be reckoned with, um, and so he was. He did. There was a lot of fun that we had in that campaign because the other people kind of played younger feeling characters where they were much
Yeah.
more like, oh, these are people in their 20s and 30s, whereas Agnews was like, no, I'm old and I've lived a whole life and I've struggled through
Mhm.
things. So it's really cool to see like that's sort of a thing. Like you can have parenthood, or you can even have like, it's not necessarily that Agnews was the dad of the group, but we
Yeah.
definitely established that he was someone who um was the he was the brains of the operation at certain
Yeah.
points.
Yeah.
So that's
That's what I
cool.
mean, though.
I like
That's what I
that.
mean. It has to be done in a way that like it has to be done naturally. Because if it's forced, then it's just not gonna be good.
It,
Then you get these egotistical players that kind of just don't want to, you know, don't want to let up. Like, you shouldn't do this because this. Don't do it. That
right.
that is taking
It
away,
translates wrong.
agency. Unless it's role played in the correct way and it's understood. Like do your general check-ins, yada yada yada. But like if it's not expected, I guess in a sense, it can be kind of a shock when it's kind of like told. But no, with Kratos in that campaign, it was very much so like it just came to him. Like it wasn't a thing. Like he just saw his daughter in these two girls and said, "I will protect them with my fucking life." Like that's
Yeah.
what that is. And he stood in front, and then he basically said, like after that moment, he's like, basically, you can go. You're safe now. Like, see you later. And they
Yeah.
chose to stay with him.
Right.
They chose like a lot of stigma is around like when players as players from a DM's perspective, when players meet each other, it's almost like it's forced to like you have to immediately like this person. No, you don't. What happened in that situation was you can go. Like you don't have to stay. You can go. And they chose to stay. And it was like there was this moment of like resistance. Like, I know I don't want you here because you remind me of something that, destroyed me. But then
Yeah.
at the same time,
You
he doesn't want to
you
let
are a
them go.
reminder of something that makes me vulnerable.
Yeah, exactly. That was his whole thing. And the whole campaign was actually beautiful with him being able to let go and understand it and say it's okay. It was such a good campaign. Oh, God. Anyway.
I've talked about it. I played a very similar situation, but I think the only difference was I played a character named Lionheart. I was very inspired by Reinhardt. Um, but
Right
I
now.
played this big Reinhardt.
Yes.
I I would play this big. I played him as a big German accented paladin who had moments in his life. I made sure to kind of step away from the mold in which I had cast him from. But one of the things I established, and I kind of wrote this down, was like a meta knowledge of the first session. One of the things that we established when we were in session zero is like one of the things I want to encompass with Lionheart is if you call for him because of something that happened in his backstory, he
Always
failed
answer the calls.
his platoon. As if you were in a pinch, if because I had Sentinel and like interception fighting style when we started, I was like, if you're in a pinch, it doesn't matter. I'll take the attack of opportunity. I will. He will always like cross that battlefield to make sure that whatever it is off of you, or that he
Yep.
would take his shield and slam it down into the ground, which would give half cover, and then he would push something back off of him. And I was like, I want to make sure that like, please, like whenever you're in situations and you're going, don't think optimally about it. I want you, like if you're in a bad way where you're like, hey, I just took half my health. And one of the players who I
Love
ended up
that. I
attaching
love
my
it.
character to was like, she would go, LT, help me, because he was Lieutenant Lionheart. But so she would yell LT, and he would I like I said, I would cross the battlefield just to help.
Just turn
Because
into a
if I
train
went too
and
far
just
ahead,
wreck through.
I
Yeah,
don't care how many
I feel
times I
that.
take that damage. I don't care if I go down getting there. That was going to be something
Oh,
that I was going to make a big point of.
it's such a good
And
feeling you get out of that, man. Just such a good feeling.
absolutely. And attaching yourself to like parentally, because I really like the parenthood as a storytelling element. Lionheart had lost his wife and daughter to a storm. And so, but the half elf of the party was about his daughter's age. And there was a moment where I had to look at it and I went, she grew up an orphan. Because when we were talking, we had a lot of time where we almost one on one a lot as we're heading towards the place we were going. And she
Yep.
revealed that she was someone who was she was an orphan. She grew up in a different country, but it was still like Lionheart started to question, like he even said her
Is this
name,
his
like
daughter?
his daughter's. Is
Yeah.
this his daughter? And it wasn't. And he.
Yeah.
I remember very fondly in session being like, "I am putting expectations on you. I should not, and I am sorry," because he would start to be very protective of her because he had
Yeah.
lost his little. He'd and
Oh,
it was so
so
fun to
hard.
play that, and I still talk about that with the player of that, where I was like, I'm excited to one day pick those characters back up because we had to, and unfortunately, we had to stop playing that campaign. I'd say right about the time that we had like our first major arc end. Just circumstance of the DM. He was like, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to keep DMing," and I was like, "Dang, I really want to keep playing this. So we are gonna play this again." And I kept thinking, I was like, I'm really excited to explore how their relationship is like. He's not meaning to be her
Yep.
father, but he can't. There's a part of him that can't help that the half elf, that it looks just like a lot like his daughter and isn't canonically. Funnily enough, his daughter actually didn't die. She was saved, and he never found her. And
Oh,
we talked about
that's
like,
tough.
hey, what does that look like? His daughter is actually from a different campaign, was the orphan girl that the Golden Rule, my first campaign, picked up and raised, and she's now a
Oh,
DMPC. They found her several years after the fact, and he didn't know, and it's one of those like really really sad moments. But I think like it's going to be so much fun if we ever get to play those characters again, because they were like, "Do
oh,
you think you would
100%.
ever meet her again?" I was like, "I leave that to the DM. I don't think so personally. I think that's something better at the end of his life, where if there was a moment where I did kill him off towards the end of the campaign, I've always talked about it in a very fond moment where his wife comes to get him because his wife did pass away. But when she comes to get him, he sees her and she's like, she's not here. She's not here. She's not here. That very much a,
Narration. Yeah.
he's the confused, scared, and then happy.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
man.
I've
This is
always, uh,
yeah. I love it.
Parenthood's a
I love
fun
it.
storytelling element, man.
Parenthood is a fantastic story element, and that's like, oh man, I crave like what's the word? Like cinematic games. I crave
Oh
cinematic
yeah.
games. Like when I do any world building, it has an element of like, you know, like you're reading a book almost at the same time.
Mhm.
Whenever I run any of my campaigns, that's well, at least that's my goal. I hope that's how it feels. But that's my goal.
Yeah.
Um, like with Shelter of the Lost right now, for example. I mean, that campaign is fucking going ham. It is going ham with where they're at right now. They're about to trying to build an army to go against the Dominion of Astera, to save Elladoria and the rest. So it's like it's not even part of their description. Like the campaign was meant to be about them being supernatural hunters, and then they just went off in this direction. And I was like, this is great because the world that they're playing in is still being built, and that was my goal with it. Is that like here is this foundation. Now I have all of these campaigns being played in it, and those they're building as it goes, right? So like Duskwatch, that is now new because of that campaign. Caldrus Cross, which is the a Dominion's foothold in Velendor, that is also now a thing. And then you've got Dawnbreak Bridge, where Seraphil is, and that's now a heavy NPC within history of this realm. I got another campaign called Shattered Realm, which is basically going on at the same time, parallel, where in Shelter of the Lost, there's a big blue comet that flies across in the sky. Well, Shattered Realm is dealing with that comet as it landed,
Hilarious.
which it's all happening at the same time. Um, and like, it's so good. Like I've always got opportunities for crossovers, which is really, really cool as well. They're always fun. Bringing two different groups together for 1 or 2 sessions and then splitting them up again.
I
So good.
I would love to do that. It's never worked for me really.
Mhm.
I did the closest I've been so far was I run a Monday and a Friday campaign presently. Monday
Yeah.
campaign is set 2 years after the events of my last campaign, and Friday campaign is set 20 years after the events of the last campaign. And for a
Oof.
while, it
Yeah.
was different characters and players altogether. So my Monday campaign, they had no ties to the Golden Rule. They didn't know really like these were people that I work with, and then my wife. And so they're playing their characters, and I was like, hey, listen, you are 2 years after this. And the only reason I say that is to be like, there is an establishment that like, hey, the greatest adventuring party that ever lived, done the dang thing, and you're existing as like now there's this, hey, what's next? What happens whenever because they retired, they're done.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so adventuring is really popular right now, and we want to do. Everybody wants to be one. So what makes you different? What sets you apart? And so we've been exploring that, where like they've got to meet. The a few sessions ago, they met Agnus, who we know canonically in 4 years, as timeline dictates, he passes away of old age. But right now, he's still got it. So whenever
Mm.
he and Sonya showed up at this big moment, where they were just there visiting somebody, and he was like, but it was a moment where the party, I was like, hey, this is Agnus Day of the Golden Rule, and they're like, holy crap. And then similarly on Friday, what I've done, and I loved this, I wanted to I wanted to find a way to do this, but on Friday the party from Monday come in as NPCs, and I play my wife's character, Agni. I play all of them as level 20 adventurers who come in and really like they help at this big moment. And it's
Damn
getting to
right.
show how cool these different groups are throughout time. And it's not just, oh, the Golden Rule were the only ones who could do it. No, you
Yeah.
have the Golden Rule, the Argent Fortune, and now on Friday, my groups like to stick with a metallic theme because I have the Bronze Bastards on Friday. So
Yes. Ooh,
um,
hang on. Connection's going
but
all funky.
it's
Time out.
yeah, I've seen that.
And we're good. Keep going.
Okay, cool. But that was the fun thing there of having these different groups want to meet up because as I got to play them, I'm seeing a little bit of connection stuff still, but I'll play with it. Like I'm seeing a
It
little bit
looks
of
fine on my
latency,
end.
but we'll be fine. Okay, cool. As long as it looks good, we're good. Um, but it was a lot of fun getting these different groups together and playing like, hey, I'm gonna play my
Yeah.
characters from Monday as faithfully as I can as level 20. And yeah, I'm sort of shoehorning that they all live. And we established a long time ago, like, hey, if I say something like that, that just means in this timeline that you're in, this is what happened whenever this group finished. Because who knows what happens to them on Monday? I've not
Yeah.
finished the campaign yet. So we've had several times where we've split off and done little one shots of like what ifs essentially before
I
the
love the
the
what
Marvel
ifs.
what ifs came up. I
They're so
love
fun.
what ifs as well, man, because we've had some really cool ones that I've actually used to establish canon lore. Where I was like, hey, that's a really really cool idea. What if
Damn right.
like
Yeah.
what if that wasn't the only way that that got there? You had
Yeah.
mentioned as well. Let's see, I'm looking over. Foundations that are being built off of. So you had mentioned like you like cinematic stories and stuff, and a
Yep.
lot of times you'll see, oh, write a book, and it's like, well, it's different whenever you set up the
Yeah.
foundations and the players build on those and make these things, which is what you're doing, and I like that because one of the things is I always want to make sure of is that I'm not basically writing a book and the characters are shoehorned. No,
Yeah.
I now you as a DM,
Yeah.
I as a DM know our characters pretty well. I know my players are really well,
You can guess.
to the
You can
point
make an
where
educated
I
guess.
can guess. And now the only time that that's not really worked out recently, and shout out my boy the Atom Bomb, he pulled 6 cards from the deck of many things, and I knew better than to introduce one. But when he pulled 6 cards, I was like, okay, I think this is one of those moments where I'm getting humbled. Uh, Fun fact: he lived, but not without lots of
Wow.
consequences.
Yeah, I was gonna
So
say, damn.
Uh,
Do you nerf the
but
do you nerf it? Do you nerf the deck of anything? Big question. Big question.
I would say no, but I know that I'm thinking of one of my players right now, and if he ever hears this episode, he'll know I'm talking about him.
You
Where
see,
he
I
would
do
say,
the
"Yes, I
opposite.
did."
You see, I do the opposite. I don't nerf it.
I didn't nerf it as much as I did play it out, and I'm because I took. It's hard to say if I nerfed it. I mean, he lived, so already like the odds are working against me and saying no, I didn't. Um, I told him, and I told him over and over again, I'm gonna do whatever it says. And
Mm.
like because of the basis of what's happening, and I asked the party because he pulled a bunch, like he pulled a bunch of the bad ones. Pulled a bunch of the good ones too. And so I didn't want to give him a get out of jail free card whenever he pulled the one, like he pulled the sun card and he pulled
Oh, was the
um
XP one, right?
yeah, the XP one, which was weird. All we ended up doing, I agreed with him, was you'll be a level higher than everyone else. And he's like, that's perfectly fine with me. And I was like,
Yeah, I see.
to
Okay.
compensate, because I do milestone. I don't do
So
XP.
do I. So do I.
Um, I'm lazy, but
Yep.
it's more so whenever we did. I'm trying to think of like the way that it all shook out. I promised him that if since we were kind of nerfing the sun card, I would let him like his item that he could choose would be really really like it would be from a list of really really good ones. Because one of the things that comes up whenever you introduce like the deck is, hey, if you have good cards and bad cards, like bad cards that kill you, you should have the good cards should really be
Good.
weighted good. So I didn't make a get out of jail free or anything, and I told the party we communicated. It was one of those moments where I was like, I don't feel bad about introducing the deck because one of the cool things is that the group really came together to plan whenever all that bad shit happened all at once. Um,
Yeah.
and because of that, I asked the group, one of the things was, hey, he got the Death Avatar one. Whereas, like, if anybody gets involved, they get their own. And I said, is anybody getting involved? And the initial knee jerk reaction from all the players was, hell no, I'm not getting involved. He should have pulled 6 cards. And I said, you are absolutely correct. Is your character getting involved? And they were like, damn it. Because I have a
Damn
paladin.
it.
I have a paladin fighter who's very protective of his group.
Of his group, yeah.
And I have, the barbarian. She's very protective of her friends. And I'm going, listen, I know he pulled 6. Is your character going to get involved? I'm not saying you have to. I'm not even going to dock you points if you don't. I just need to know because I'm going to write that shit down as like this was a major character decision. And they go, damn it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I ended up having the barbarian and the paladin did get involved, and it's probably one of the only reasons that he survived that was because they chose to get involved. They had their avatars, and it all shook out. And there's still like the consequences of that are still echoing throughout this campaign.
Yep.
But like yeah, like the and all that to say, you have the foundations that the players build on. I've got the framework. I've got the buildings. I've got the map and everything. And you are the characters. So rather than me telling the story with your characters, I want to see what your characters do, how your characters interact with these situations, and
So yeah,
not
those
give them
those
to you.
those interactions like mean everything. Those interactions like
Yeah.
can make or break an entire story. So yeah, 100%.
I mean, there was moments where I had planned or I had ideas of like it would be really cool to see, you know, if this character how they grow from this preconceived notion that they have of others. And I didn't want to heavy hand that and be like, hey, I want you to do this. I just wanted to see if it would happen naturally. And what was really, really cool is watching at a certain point where it was causing like the there was a situation where they had to come up, and whenever they came up and realized the stupidity of the situation, they were like they they weighed in on the side that I kind of was hoping for. Did not incentivize it, did not plan it one way or the other, did not
Yep.
incline one way or another. And they straight up they came up, they showed out, and they made their decision. And what that did is that planted a seed that, you know, other people saw them act that way, and they were like, hey, these are people that are friends with us. These are
Yep.
people that we can trust, and they've still been reaping benefits of making that decision. And I told them afterwards, like, you have no idea how important like that interaction was, because if you would have acted a certain way, if you'd have done that, that still was going to. I was going to let those echoes go. However, you know, whatever you shouted was going to be whatever echoed, you know?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. The consequences, just consequences of your actions. They mean so much more when it is involving a deck of many things. So much more.
Oh boy.
But yeah, like that's what I'm talking about though. Like cinematic narrative, one way or another, no matter how chaotic or not, it's just so what's the attractive in terms of story. It is super, super attractive in terms of story. Because I don't know about you. I do know about you. Cinematic moments for me allow me to really delve deep into role play as a player and as a DM. Like I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there was a moment between. Did you watch Twin Souls campaign at all?
I have, well, let's see. I've been watching Shelter of the Lost. I Twin Souls, was that one that you were playing about a year or two ago?
Yeah, yeah, 2 years
I,
ago.
I did watch a few episodes. You'll have to probably brush me up on it a little bit, but
Basically, that campaign finished. Thankfully, that was a great campaign. That was such a
that's
good one.
awesome.
That that was about these children that grew up to become twin souls with a dragon, but not just any dragon.
Ooh,
We used Fizzbarns for it, the
oh,
dragons that
cool.
came from it they were the first of their kind in my world, and they were the gemstone dragons, but they were the only ones of the
I was gonna
kind.
say, is the
Oh
nice.
my god! And I buffed them and nerfed them, and I gave them each like different growth stages and different abilities. For like Alina, was the healer. Like her scruffy little beard would wrap around a wound and heal it. Like that was it. But
Interesting.
it takes away from her. Like just like just like Rapunzel and her hair, how
Yeah.
it can do healing or
Okay.
it can
That's cool.
youth, things like that. So they kind of like use the Fountain of Youth kind of vibe with that. And then you have Shadow, who was just chaos incarnate, like literally just that's what he was. He had this rage within him that would send him what's called primal, and that was like not a thing that was able to be controlled for a long time. Who Shadow was in tuned with was Gucci's character Doc, and Doc also had these issues with his temper. He wasn't a barbarian; he was a ranger, but a ranger with temper issues.
I like it. I like
Yes,
that. Write that
yes,
down. I want to talk about that in a minute.
yes. Yeah, that whole concept. Well, that is a great concept, by the way. Like to have something that could rage, but doesn't have to be a barbarian. You know what I mean? It's really great. Anger issues is not specific to barbarians, people.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, and then we had like another one who I can't remember his name. Clothus, I think is what his name was, and he was the smart one, the intelligence. And it was like, we had another one, Troth, who was the purple amethyst dragon, basically the youngest, the most timid one, the peaceful one, if you will, but had would accidentally be able to defend so many attacks accidentally because he'd fling up his tail because he was so scared, but it would block attacks in the
Yeah.
same process. You know what I mean? It was really cool. The idea of a clumsy dragon that was actually beneficial was quite interesting. But
I like
like
that.
the players were able to build a relationship with these dragons, and I was able to build that relationship with the players as these dragons. Because they were twin souls, I pretty much like paralleled the dragons with them, right? Because they raised
Right.
them from childhood, and that concept, that cinematic concept of, or the way that I made it was cinematic at least, was so in tune with each other, and the players were just straight up on board, and it fluently moved and progressed. We actually ended up finishing that campaign by that was a campaign that I had a partnership, have a partnership still with Day of Dragons, Be Awesome Games.
Right.
That campaign ended in Jacron, which was that video games world. It was an
That's
island
cool.
off of the coast that they were living on, and they I got the rights to use all of their dragons as dragons in the game, where the behemoth Icehorn Drake was like the king of the dragons in this stage, but it wasn't even a dragon; it was like a giant drake behemoth thing.
Right.
And it would go against the other ones. And there is this entity named what the players called him was Craig. What he actually was the collector. Fun fact. Oh, this is the first time anyone's going to hear this. But the fun fact
Ooh.
about Craig, who everybody hated because he would torment the players. And this is, I promise I'm going somewhere with this. This is part of the whole cinematic
Oh, you're
thing.
good.
It Gucci's character died. Doc died. And when player deaths happen, no matter what or how long for, even if they get revivified, they get a solo session. And that solo session is their death beyond the grave. While they're down and out. And in that moment, there's an episode called it's episode 6.5, so 6.5, the one in between where I had a one-on-one session with him. And he was wandering in the Shadowfell because he got killed by a night hag in a very specific way. Cough, cough.
Ooh.
Yes. And he got sent to the Shadowfell. Or sorry, like pandemonium, essentially, like the rift of nothingness, essentially. And while wandering, this angelic creature floated down to him, and long story short, gave him a choice. She put her two hands out, and she said, "Your death should not have happened. I'm going to give you a choice." And on one hand, silhouettes of his family, his little brother, his mother, and his father came peering out, and it's like, "Son, like, come home to us. Come back to us. We're here. We've been waiting." And then he realized that they've been lost in the Shadowfell this whole fucking time. And he's like, "Oh shit." And then on the other hand, he can go back to the life where the party is, because the party are getting fucking slaughtered and they need him. They are getting slaughtered by two night hags trying to trap a topaz dragon wormling. Right? Yeah, so there was some stuff on the line here. It was basically the only topaz that ever existed, and they're going to try and sacrifice it and kill it. So he had to make a choice between his friends or to see his family again. And that episode where he was dead, I can't really go to it. Like, you have to watch it. It's on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
I absolutely will.
First time and only time I've ever made him cry. He chose, obviously, to come back to life. And what that did, that angelic creature that gave him the choice of life or death, was Krieg. But they had no idea. And Krieg is a trickster. He is mischief, is what he is. Tenfold. His real title, he has no name, but his real title is the Collector. And he doesn't collect like things. He collects your time.
Ooh.
So when he sacrificed choosing his family, they no longer existed.
Yikes.
Because he took that time from him.
Ooh wee.
Big, huge, huge. And throughout the campaign, when he came back to life, every time he'd go to sleep, he'd see this, he'd hear this maniacal sort of chuckle of laughter, and Craig would show up and he's like, "Oh God, I can't get rid of you." He's like, "You can't get rid of me. You can't kill me. You've got me for good, my friend." And like it's just this moment of like this dread. Like, I literally can't get rid of him. If I sleep, I see him. If I'm awake, he's there. There's no getting rid of him. And it's just so much frustration. And throughout the campaign, he grew stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where like one of the other characters, Aurora, G's character, was like, because she couldn't see Craig for the moment. And then she's like, "You need to stop being yada yada. You need to stop doing this and this and this." And he's like, "It's not me. It's Craig. Like, it's this guy." And he's like, "Well, tell him to, kick rocks," basically. Anyway, she went to sleep that night. And Craig was like whispering in Doc's ear, going, "Psst, psst. Do you think she'd like this?" And he opens his eyes to a horrific scene of her covered in this black ichor, and she was actually covered in the black ichor and pulled up next to him with her eyes sort of like gooed shut, and he's like,
Right.
I could just, and plugs up her nose so she can't breathe. And he's just like, he can't move, like a paralysis demon. So Doc was kind of stuck there for a moment. I was like, make me a con save. Make me a con save right now. And he did. And he managed to succeed. And he got up and tore it off. And Craig was like, damn, so close. And then just vanishes. And like throughout the whole campaign, he was tormenting. Like he never intended to kill, but he was tormenting them. Collecting.
It's like a curse.
Yeah, he was collecting, essentially, is what he was doing, and the whole time it was just a nightmare experience for the party. But that was, believe it or not, a planned situation where, like we spoke about before, where like you can make an educated guess on what they would choose. I had a feeling he was going to choose to get back. I knew this, so here's the consequence. You died. Dying costs something if you want to come back to life.
Mm-hmm.
It costs. This is your cost.
Yep.
It was so good.
I like that, and I want to touch on that because death is one of those things where you have a very wide gap in the community of how to handle it. Levels 1 through 3 are survival horror, and I've always enjoyed playing campaigns at levels 1 through 3. I think death is a part of storytelling. However, I am soft. I will admit this now. If you spend so much time building this character, like, because the way that my players are, they know now that we've been playing for a long time now. We spend a lot of time pontificating and creating these characters. And so if something were to happen, if you get snuck by goblins, I'm not going to say random encounter because I don't really do random encounters. I think you and I have talked about that, where random encounters narratively, unless they don't have narrative purpose, there's no reason to have.
They don't have really much focus in a narrative if it's just a random encounter.
Right.
Yeah.
But if something happens, like you're in a boss fight early on, I mean, granted, how many boss fights you throw in a level 1 through 3 party,
one each level.
But oh geez. I mean, granted, that kind of makes sense though. I mean, it's no different than a video game or something. But one of the things I've told my players and I established pretty early is like, hey, death is not the end of your character. Death is most of the time a chapter for them. And what that is that's an open door for if I have somebody who has like an older mindset of like, no, if he dies, he dies. I want to play something new. Perfect. Then whenever that happens, we will figure out a way. I'll alter the story. I won't, but as we get further and further, death means a lot more and death costs a lot. I've always wanted to have something where so obviously the viewers can't see it, but my profile picture on Discord is of Kelemvor. That is the actual art of Kelemvor. And I've ever since my first character who died, he was a cleric of Kelemvor named Dormund. Dormund was my first character that ever died.
Yeah.
And I've always loved Kelemvor. I love the lore of him. If you've ever read up on him, if you haven't, you should. It's
isn't he like the god of sorrows or something like that?
He's the god of the dead in 5th edition. But he is very much one who was like, okay, I'm going to make.
Isn't he just like super fucking sad? He's just super depressed.
He had a really, really tragic backstory.
Yeah.
But very much lended to that, where like he caused a lot of sorrow, and then eventually he's a hero among humans and gets elevated to godhood. And admittedly, my knowledge of the lore gets a little murky, but at one point he dates Mistra, which many have apparently in the lore of D&D. I don't know what the writing choice was for that, but Gale, eat your heart out.
I was gonna say, Gale, eat your fucking heart out. Damn.
But what's really cool is one of the things I read about him is that he establishes the gray, which is whenever you die, you go to the gray, and whoever you belong to will come and fetch you. Now you have a few days to make deals and stuff. And there was always a bit of me who was like, why does he allow for deals? Because he does not allow undead. He hates them. They are to be destroyed. And he sends his emissaries to go do that. But it's always been one of those things where I've always wanted to have a player end up in the gray, getting ready to be sorted at a certain point. and having to make that decision a little bit where it's like,
Yeah.
are you going? Are you getting sorted? Or are you going to strike a deal? Because I've always told my players something will always be willing to help. Always, always, always. I have the contract in my Google Drive. I've
It is
I
ready to
found one.
go.
It is ready to go. You will sign it and you will like whatever terms they obviously will put to their benefit.
Yep.
You will not win this fight. You will not win this argument. And there's other ways of doing it too. And I've told players, especially this party I'm DMing for on Friday, if your character dies, some of them don't go to the gray. Some of them have long arching contracts with things that from their backstory. Maybe not an art like contract, but one of them worked for an ancient
Deal.
vampire.
Yeah.
And so whenever he dies, I told him, "You'll go home. You won't die. You'll go home." He's like, "I don't want to go home." And I was like, "No, you don't, because he betrayed his old master." And then I told two others, I was like,
So
your
don't die.
heaven is different from the gray. So you would
Yeah.
go home to Ithilien where your ancestors are. And they were like, that's not so bad. I'd love to see my family again. And so there was a lot of this where I was like, the only person in the party who might actually have concern of going to the gray is Nathan, the godless heathen over there. Because one of the funny things about my best friend is he likes to play characters who are not religious at
Yeah.
all, despite how many gods there are. It's very fun to have a player who's like, nah.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn right. 100%.
So I like death as a storytelling element. I've killed off some of my characters. The Dormand, I did not get a choice in that. I got intellect devoured, and
Oh.
I wasn't even salty about it. I was so sad whenever, because I played him for a few sessions after he died, as the intellect devourer walking around a Dormand, until finally the party kind of was starting to catch on that, hey, something's wrong with Dormand. He really is friendly with that mind flayer guy. So eventually he died off screen, and I got to come back as a ghost for a minute to just tell the party, like,
Yeah.
please don't resurrect me. It's not what my god would want. Um, and but yeah, so like death has a story to be told. I'm not, in my stories or my campaigns, I am not someone who actively is trying to kill my party. And I've told them, like, you have minute amounts of plot armor, but
Oh,
do
I try
not
to kill them.
test it.
I try to kill them at every chance I
See,
get. I try to kill
see,
them.
See, I am beginning to get that way in my old age, I would say. Mainly because I love giving parties magic items. I love really
Yeah.
going for the story of like, hey, I love that you're strong. Let's see how strong
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah. Like,
I'm trying to summon Goku out here. You hear me? Like,
damn right. Damn right.
I want
Like
I
it's
want that guy to show up and say, "I heard you're pretty strong."
straight up, man. Like I make my encounters to a point where they matter. They are balanced, unless
Mhm.
I don't want them to be balanced. Like if I want it to be a difficult fight, then
Right.
it's gonna be it's gonna be a difficult fight. That's how it is. Like for example, in this campaign that I've got running on Start Playing, it's called Blood of the Wolf. I think we've spoken about it a couple times. It's the
Mhm.
full Viking saga campaign that I'm doing, where there's like players can choose between orc, Goliath, dwarf, or human, but no matter what choice they make, they are human with
Ooh.
those race traits, with those species traits from a 2024 book. Obviously, with Goliath though, because there's no magic in it, they don't get to get like the fire from the fire, you know, fire Goliath, etc., etc. But they do, they can get the stone for the stone's endurance, yada yada yada. So it just depends. And what that has allowed me to do in terms of balancing is something phenomenal. So every enemy they face is going to be human. Sounds boring as hell. Doesn't even sound like Dungeons and Dragons. But the way that it's set out is like they have all of these encounters that they're going to have to try and face, right? So for example, in the beginning of the campaign, it's literally session 0. I make them play as children. Sorry, trauma. Have fun. You get to play as children, where you are sitting in a hall having a feast called the Red Feast with your father, and he's celebrating, getting ready to raid for the next season. And then all of a sudden, his fucking uncle kills him. Oh shit. And now your mother is dragging you away to tell you to get to the boats where you've been told to go if anything happens. Your father has always said, a warrior must know when to flee and when to fight. This is a moment to flee. And yada, yada, yada. Like they take off. Anyway, after that, 15 winters pass, and the campaign now begins. Okay,
Right.
campaign officially begins at
For
this
what
stage.
happened.
The aurora comes back. The red sky comes back, and that is their bloodline. They're called the blood of the wolf. On the red feast, it is the feast of their bloodline, where they get these blessings and these additional not for lack of better words, abilities and effects that sort of kind of overtake them. And for that season, the aurora stays there. The red sky stays for that whole season, and it only happens once every 15 winters. So this was the secondary moment. This was their chance to take back what they lost. So in that same process, they are now buffed up Viking insane warriors going up against also buffed up Viking insane warriors, but they're all martial classes. Balancing has never been easier.
Yeah.
Balancing
Yeah.
has never been easier. Being able to make an enemy stronger, give him an extra attack.
Yep.
Just give him one extra attack, give him an extra reaction, and you're sorted. Like it's that straightforward. And it sounds super simple. It does sound super simple. I know it does. But it's going to do something different with the players. Like I've run a few test runs with the boys at home, and they cannot get enough. And it makes me so happy that it actually worked. And I'm taking a big risk with this. Like I've never done anything like this before, where it's just humans.
Yeah.
Right? Just straight up humans going up
Well,
against humans. You're living in that realm of things. Like,
I think.
go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, I think it's really cool because there's a lot of things that you can do with that, and
Oh, so
among
much.
those things is one, if it's all martials, that's a lot of fun whenever you finally do have somebody that can cast spells.
I do have
Holy
one.
cow!
I do have one.
Okay,
So there's
fair enough.
one. There's
Uh,
always going to be one in the party. So it's
Right.
not the traditional D&D way. Like it's technically a cleric, but it's a
Mhm.
homebrew thing called the Seidr. And Seidr is like the
Okay.
old magic of the Norse gods, like the
Yeah.
old like witch in the woods style magic where they use runes to cast their magic, like and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's insane, right? It's insane. And it's
Right.
either the player, only one player can be a Seidr, or the NPC takes over and their name is Astrid and that becomes their sister. And there's a whole back thing for them. And I will explain that
I remember
after I
you
run my
talking
first
about
campaign.
that. I was gonna say, I remember you talking to the group the other day whenever I hopped in on the call, and
Yeah.
you were kind of mentioning it to them a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
what one of the things I like that I
Mm.
like that if you have a Sather, they if you have an enemy Sather, um, it's one of those things where hey, they're really that could be a lot of fun. Where like they're better,
Yeah.
and and it's also like hey, this is still a martial, so like go ahead, run up on the wizard or run up on the spellcaster, see
You're
what
gonna get
happens.
smacked. You go get
You're gonna get
smacked.
smacked. Watch as they use your blood as their spellcasting focus or something, you know?
Literally.
Um,
Literally that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then also,
Literally.
um, what happens whenever you finally do introduce a monster? Whenever something is actually, "Hey,
Then it's
this is"
something else. Right?
because you've established everything's human.
Right.
Everything you've encountered. So it'd have to be a late game
Right.
thing, maybe, or I mean, at any point you drop it in where you're going. We are anticipating a monster. Meta wise, even if it's like not their fault, meta wise, they are going to try to rationalize, and it's a very difficult thing to do in D&D of trying to establish, hey, this could be a man
But
or a monster.
you take that option away and it changes the whole outcome, like the whole thought
Yep.
process. Like for example, what I've done is obviously wolves are a thing. They're a big part of the thing. Like the silver wolf banner
Yeah.
is what the blood of the wolf, that wolf blood sort of bloodline has. Then you've got the uncle side, which is the red wolf. You know what I mean? And they have the
Yep.
red wolf banner, so on and so forth. And it's like the moment that I throw them a dire wolf, it's going to be just a simple dire wolf. Lights out.
Yeah. 1 sec.
You could.
Apologies. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, a dire wolf. Something as simple as a dire wolf is going to be something monstrous to them. Not that it's going to be hard for them to fight, but it's something they haven't seen before, and I can really use it in this horror fashion. You know what I'm saying?
Let me
Like I
grab
think it's
this real fast. I want
really
to show
freaking
you.
cool.
I've shown it to you
Not to
before. But
not to mention that Fenrir, Jormungandr, Fafnir, they all exist in this realm. Oh, you didn't even hear me, did you?
I did not.
I love that wolf. I remember when you were painting that on stream. I love that wolf.
It's one of my favorites.
Not to mention, though, that in this realm, in Norsewind, in my land of Velendor, Fenrir, Jormungandr, Fafnir, the dragons, they all exist. They're just myths and legends, or gods, or children of gods.
That's cool.
But they exist and they're real. And the Seder is the one that speaks to the gods. And they can hear things. So when Fenrir comes out of fucking nowhere and is like, "You, my child," like it's gonna be a deep and guttural thing that, oh shit, I haven't heard this one before. Where have you been? Oh my god. Yeah. It's gonna be one of those moments that, like,
God, is that you?
damn.
It's me, Margaret.
It's really, really cool. And like with this campaign, this is the first time I've ever done something like this too. It's like I've never done a restricted campaign where players have to choose from these specific races or these specific classes, because it is only martial classes besides one, and the party decides on who gets to play that one magic. The condition with the magic class is that it has to be, and it has to be a female. That I've never done a restricted like that. I'm very much so open, like you can do it whatever the hell you want. But in this traditional realm of things, it is generally a female that has the ability to use to say the magic. That is the thing. Why?
Right.
Is because women in this realm are seen as these beautiful and precious things that need to be protected, respected, and understood, but no one can understand them. Just which is the reason why the All-Father sacrificed his eye for the knowledge of women, because they know so much more than what we can see. And it's like it's a really interesting sort of take on things. And I've never used this stuff before, and they're definitely controversial, but I think it's an interesting take. Definitely going to be an interesting take to bring in that old sort of Viking Nordic style thing. Because if you think Norse, that's how it was back then. That's the kind of the vibe. Brings it back into this. That's how it happens.
And I know, I know you as like an individual. That's like these. This is more so a storytelling element than
absolutely 100%. That is exactly what it is.
Yeah.
It is
this is a storytelling element that is being used for this creative outlet.
Exactly.
It makes me, I don't know if you've read them or not, but if you've read the Bloodsworn trilogy, if you haven't, you really should. Oh my God, you really should. But the only reason that I'm like, they use a lot of this in the books. Now there is some things that are different, because at first I was like, I think he's read the Bloodsworn trilogy and loved it.
I haven't.
If you haven't, you should. You really should, because you would love it. Because everything you're telling me is like very much like that's how those books are written as well. So
that's cool.
It makes, that's where I'm not like, whoa, what? It's very palpable, because like the spellcasters in that are very much they say, or I pronounce them Sayor, but I think that's wrong. I think you're saying it right. But it's Sathor are witches. And they're known as witches, but if I'm not mistaken, so far in the books, I have not seen a Sathor male spellcaster. And it's just because it's tied to the old beliefs of that. And it's whenever it's a storytelling element like that, it's interesting.
And that's strictly what it is. Like it is
before you panicked, everybody. Like he doesn't think that way. This is a storytelling element. Please believe us.
Indeed.
I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, go on. Or you.
Oh, well, I wrote down on my notes limiting species or like limiting things. You say this is your first time, so you kind of answered my question. But what I know jokingly, species that you limit always.
Aarakocras.
So
fuck off.
Aarakocras. you cannot. Aarakocras, Owlin, if it has wings, Ragnar will not allow it to be played.
Kenkus are fine. And so are Aspas.
Because Kenkus can't fly. ASMR
That's
can
what
only
you
fly it temporarily.
correct.
Um, so and to that, I agree in some regards because flying can make things weird. Right now, my party on Friday are level sevens, and some of the monk is a way of the ascended
To
dragon,
be
so he
clear,
can fly a little bit. Go
to
ahead.
be clear, it's flying at level 1. That's my problem.
True, true, and
That's
it
where
does
I
cause a lot of
lies
problems.
my issues.
Um, and to your credit there, I wanted to ask what species you limit, even though I know the answer being most of them being the flying races at level one. In
Yeah.
which I can't really I agree from a tactical standpoint, flying is very strong, and even at those levels,
Very
it's very
strong.
strong. And
Oh,
you have to accommodate for it, but and a lot of people will say, "Well, with the rules, I mean, you can fly, but you don't hover, so you have to be
yeah.
careful." And I agree with them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things where I want to allow my players to be able to fly. One of
Yeah.
the things with Nathan on Fridays is that he grew up in the circus and he's half dragon. He's just recently learned about the half dragon, but he's always felt a calling to want to fly, and he couldn't
Yeah.
explain it. So he just they would do acrobatics and stuff, but he always knew that wasn't good enough. He climbs to the top of the highest of everything. Whenever as role play bits, he always is looking for the tallest place, and he doesn't know why. And now he's beginning to realize it's because he has a desire in his draconic blood to fly on the winds and stuff.
Mm.
Doesn't help that he's also air ganassi. So like he's got double whammy of this
Oh
desire
man. Yeah.
to be out there and be
Yeah.
floating. Also, at some point, especially with this with the half dragon stuff, at some point, I've talked about like, hey, they're going through this thing right now. And it's a narrative choice of, hey, you're going through this thing. We've called it the Crucible. Where it's like, hey, how can you be a half dragon and not look like a half dragon? He looks like an air ganassi. I mean, he looks just like a blue humanoid, but he's
Yeah.
starting to develop draconic features, scales across his knuckles and across like parts that need defending.
Extra features.
Um,
Yeah.
and he's got the ability to fly because of the way of the ascendant monk stuff. And so I told him, I was like, if you were ever interested in wings at a certain point, especially with them being level 9 now, I think I
Oh
said
yeah.
7 a minute ago, but I'm wrong. We're getting kind of close to that point where if you got interested in it, I told him, I was like, the way that the crucible works is that it will adjust your body in ways that you need to survive. And so if there's ever a moment where he runs out of his focus points to be able to fly and still decides to leap off of the edge to save someone else, I will
That's
keep
something
that
that
in
can happen.
mind.
Yep.
And to that credit, one of the players, like I'm getting comfortable flying because I always have Ragnar in the back of my head being like, "No flyers, no flyers."
To be clear,
But
like I said before,
no
it
early
is
flyers.
flying at level 1 is my hassle. And I know how easy it is to say like, oh, okay, we'll just start them at a higher level, or just don't let them fly until this thingo. We give them a clipped wing or something like that. Like there's
Yeah,
obviously all these things around. It's also that I just hate Aarakocra in
fair.
general.
They're a strange bird race. I mean, I like the Owlin personally over the Aarakocra, but I
Owlins are
don't see
cool,
them as being.
but I just
They're
don't.
cool.
I don't like Aarakocras. I just don't. I don't know.
I mean,
Like
they're
besides
strange
the flight,
race or a species in uh like they're
I think
narratively awkward to put in.
nah. I think
The
it's
Kinku aren't.
because I think it's from a difficult moment in my life where my sister had just started playing Dungeons and Dragons, and she played an Aarakocra monk with 2 nunchucks. Um,
Okay.
and I didn't like the fact that she could fly at Mach 10 and uh
Nunchucka from above.
nunchuck her from above. I wasn't even the DM, bro. I was a player in that group, and
Right, you're just watching just this bastardization of attacks, just
yeah, and I hated it, and I hated her character too. I hated her character. This is my sister, so it's fine. But I hated her character with a passion.
Sibling love. You don't
So
understand.
I think deep down, that's where my hate for the Aarakocra really comes from. Is watching that moment.
Fair.
She just sent it. I was like, God, I hate this.
Uh,
I know that not everybody's gonna
and
play it the
then
same way, but
it's always the grapple rules too. Like, what happens if I grab somebody, fly up in the air, and drop them? I'm like, "Ah, damn it, I don't. Stop grabbing the big bad evil guy. He's gonna kill you or something. I don't know." Which that translates to just, hey, you need to work up. You need to brush up on your tactical knowledge, make stop gaps. How well informed is the group? Like if he's grabbing bandits or if they're grabbing bandits and dropping them, who cares? But
yeah,
if it's just the royal guard and or maybe like, this is a group of assassins and they know if they're worth their snuff, they've got nets. Um, and so, and then you get to go, well, guess what happens whenever you fall from this height or something, which it's all dependent. So I was going to ask about limiting species and stuff because there's a funny few that I have that like I always tell my group whenever they want to play something, I'm like, I'm pretty much cool with everything, but there is a group of species that I'm just like, I don't really fuck with them. But if you are interested and you have something cool, let's work together. And so
Yep.
my list is actually longer than yours, where it's the Gith. I am
Yep.
it's most of the astral races. Now, I do have an astral elf in Monday campaign, and it's really cool because I was like, I will allow this because I want to explore some stuff. And the things his influence has caused for the in the future campaign, they've made airships. They're just now getting airships out, and they're not
Nice.
they're airships that are having to be powered, and they'll never go up into the wild space and into the astral sea, but they are modeled after them because they are pulled from the
Ah.
blueprints, and they went, we can't do this, but we can do this. Um, and then so I have the Gith, which is the Gith Yankee, Gith Zerai. I have
Yep.
the GIF because the GIF are the hippopotamus people. I think they're cool, but they have firearms. And firearms are one of those where it's just now starting in my campaign because of some choices
Yep.
last one. So I try to limit those a little bit. I like the Hadizee, the
As in
problematic lore
firearms, as in
stuff that
like
they
pew pew firearms.
pew pew, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
guns.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the same.
Every
I'm the
artist is
same.
going to make one, but like right now in my Friday campaign, and I'll talk about this more in depth probably later. Is I do have firearms, but it's because of a choice that Tanash made in the last campaign. That was a player choice that shaped the world, the foundation of something. And
Ah,
I
nice.
warned them. I was like, whenever you do this, it will change the world. And he warned the NPC that he gave this schematic to. He's like, listen, this is dangerous. This will change warfare. This will do all this stuff. So if you use this, you must be careful. And I liked that so much that he established it, that it's actually affected how they treat firearms in their own little
Yeah.
place. So I have
Yeah.
Gith, the Gith Yankee, the Gif, the Hadizee, I think are cool. The Astral Elves, I have one of those in my Monday campaign. And then I get into the Stranger Things, the Grung. I don't know why. The Grung and the Lokatha, the fish people,
I only
not a
look at
fan.
at the main books. Like when it comes to races, I don't look
Nah.
at the extra add-ons and stuff like that. To be honest with you.
See, I will allow for just about anything, but it does start going through my scrutiny filter a bit.
Yeah.
Where the Lokatha and the
Like I
Grung, I don't
just
know why. Now I've had
recently allowed a Kenda and a fairy.
they're basically I like the fairies. I did think that the
Yeah.
fairies were cool, especially if you go for the Feywild angle, where it's like, oh yeah, that's the reason why you
Yeah.
don't. Because one of the things is
I'm
like, I mean, granted, Lokatha and Grung, they're just weird to me. I don't know why. I've had a
yeah.
good Grung in the party before. He was
Even
cool. His name was
turtles.
it was
Turtles are cool, but
Turtles.
they're limited still.
Turtles
For
key to that
example,
line. That
like in my realm, Velendor, right? There,
Mhm.
gunpowder's only just now starting to exist, thanks to Blood of the Wolf
Yep,
campaign, right?
cool.
So just because of that campaign, that's starting to come into fruition. But weapons, firearms don't exist yet. And like I've had a
Yep.
couple people ask me, like, can I be a gunslinger? I'm like, it's not really ready yet for this world. I don't want
Yeah.
to introduce that because that will change so much.
Yep.
So I mean, I guess in the
And
same
even in
respect.
the Dungeon Master's Guide, it says like, hey, yeah, like do these if you're comfortable with this, do this. And so if I've never really had somebody I've not really introduced a bunch of firearms, but I do intend like there's a whole group,
I
there's a
have an arc
whole
for it.
hold
Yeah.
of people that have firearms. They have rifles and pistols,
Yep.
but they treat them with such sacredness that you will not they put runes on them for finding them, so you can't steal them. The people that make them are like contractually and like fey or like demonic pact bound to not share the information. You can't torture it out of them.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah.
made
Good.
big I
100%.
made big stop gaps to where it's just like there's no and I listener, I hear you. I hear you, listener. You're going, why? Why do all that work? If they're in there, let them play. It's like because firearms are strange for sword and board, and it's sort of if you can just I cast gun, it
Yeah.
completely changes your high fantasy setting. Whereas, but if you have the one
Mm.
pistol that just all of a sudden that's the thing that sets the tone of the fight. Whenever you
Yeah.
hear click and that's a
Yeah.
reference for one of my players whenever he did that to me where he was the one with the pistol and he was egging on this fight, and then all of a sudden he looked at me and went click, and I was like, huh?
Yeah. Mind you, I just did a campaign, full campaign of Gunslingers, the full campaign.
Cool.
That was epic. It was called The Devil's Revolver. And it was
Ooh.
yeah, badass name. The
Ooh.
Devil's Revolver. And it was like a six rounds, 6 chapter campaign where they would have
Nice.
to they were being hunted by this badass mercenary named One Shot Trell. And Trell was hunting them the whole time, and he was known to he's never been hit by a bullet. He's never missed a shot ever. So they're being hunted throughout the whole campaign. And all of a sudden, at the very end, he shoots at them and he misses. And they realize that hang the fuck on, he missed. And they were like, "There's one of two things: one, he meant to, or two, he's not as good as they think he is."
Right.
And there was that moment. There's this really tense moment between the two as the gunslingers. And that's what I'm saying is, I love gunslingers. Don't get me wrong; they're just not ready for this for
Yeah.
the world of Elendor yet. But
I,
they had this
I
really
yeah, I
tense
don't
moment.
want everyone having one.
Yeah, they had this really tense moment where they had to like decide whether he was actually just not that good, or if he meant to miss and wasn't ready to kill them yet. Turns out he wasn't ready to kill them yet. In fact, he offered them a deal. He wasn't a devil. He was just this is a word of mouth deal where like he's just like, the person that hired me to kill you, I want to kill. Here's my proposition. I won't kill you if you help me find
You
him.
gotta help me. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you limit any classes? I remember you're not fond of monks.
No, I am fond of monks. So don't get me wrong. I'm terrified of
Okay.
monks. I'm terrified of monks because
The
of the stun.
The Aarakocra monk keeps him up at night.
It does, man. It does. But no, it's more so the stunning attack. Like that is it's
Yeah.
a nightmare for BBEGs. It's a nightmare.
Deflect attacks is not much better now.
No,
They changed.
It's worse now. Yeah.
It is strong as shit. I won't
Yeah.
lie.
But no, I don't have any restrictions in terms of classes. I wouldn't say. Monks is still a thing. However, just like gunslingers, monks don't exist yet. Specifically, there are martial fighters, which instead of monks, I use a fighter subclass that I've made, like the unarmed fighting, rather than a monk, because there's no like temples devoted to those things. There's no monasteries.
Like the peace.
None of those yet, because the world is being established. And like, just like in real life, martial arts didn't just like, it kind of just happened. Somebody decided this hit is going to be strategically impactful. This uppercut is going to specifically uppercut the fuck out of this guy. Like it's going to do its job. You know what I'm saying? Like it came out of training and understanding. Fights. That's where martial arts came from. Like Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do, Muay Thai, all of those came to fruition out of learning from one another, like each different martial arts. Right now, there is not one, but people are just kind of throwing hands. So really, the only thing that exists is boxing, which is comes from fucking fighters in my mindset. Yeah. Monks are a little bit more spiritual.
Cool. See, in my setting, what I've started to do since they rebranded it in 5.5, because originally I would struggle with like Way of the Drunken Master, because it's hard to play a drunk at the table and that be something that's charming. That isn't just, where you're not, shut up, you stupid old drunk.
You could do the whole the Forbidden Kingdom, the Jackie Chan style.
Absolutely. And that is the direct inspiration of it. But it's one of those things now where there is because of the rebranding of these, it's sort of working in a neat way, because Nathan, another example of Nathan on Friday, he plays a monk. But what's funny is Ramsey cannot break playing monks. He in the last campaign he played a monk, and he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about playing a monk." And I was like, "Oh boy, yeah, you're really feeling fancy here." But he's playing it. he played open hand last, and now he's playing Ascendant Dragon. And the way we've formed it is that all of his dragon abilities are actually coming from his heritage, with him being literally half dragon.
Yep.
And so all of these like special stuff is all dragon stuff. But he was taught how to fight from a monk who was pretty good, but he was basically he's a boxer where he's very brawly.
Yep.
And he doesn't do a lot of grapples or anything, but he is somebody who's you can't put him down, you can't stop like he's very hard to put away. And the flavor change of having him fight like that compared to where Tanash was, he grew up in a monastery and he learned open hand, and he now as a dragon because of situations in the campaign teaches open hand. And as well, he's a gold dragon, so he's very, very intelligent. He's very talented, and he's learned other forms of teaching to teach his students at his
Yep.
monastery. So there is like the duality of, hey, this works. And it's really fun to play with this. All that to say, I love the rebranding of the monk,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
because it offers a lot of like, hey, I want to play a boxer. Okay, let's do a monk. And like you can just flavor the monk as like, hey, rather than like that stunning strike isn't like, oh, I know exactly where to hit. It's I hit him so damn hard.
Yep.
uh, so
Yes, sir.
I like that. And I don't limit any classes in mine. The ones I would say none of the
Mm.
core classes. Gunslinger is one of those where it kind of falls into that. Let's talk about it because nobody's ever asked.
Yep.
But I'd be open to it a little bit.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like even the homebrew, I wouldn't say homebrew, but the third party content stuff is stuff that I'm like, let me look at it and we'll see. Because I have a paladin Illrigger in the party, which is really
Love that.
really neat.
Love Ilrigo.
Uh, the Illrigger's really cool. I'm having a lot of fun pestering the player who plays the Paladin Illrigger because those are very opposing sides, and I've had to start being like, hey, listen. The more you start to dabble in one or the other, you're going to start breaking your tenets. And I probably should have been doing this a long time ago, but it was one of those things where I was like, hey, you're interested in this. I don't want to just be like, oh, you dabbled in Illrigger. Guess what? Oathbreaker Paladin. Because I am not someone who really does evil in the party. If you want to run evil, let's talk because I'm not going to have like PvP. I'm not going to allow for like heinous like I don't know. There's and it's just not really a really hot by any regards. This is one of those like it's very you can read this over any subreddit or any discussion about D&D. Like, oh, what do you do about evil? It's like most of the time play a chaotic neutral. That's normally good enough, but you have to be at least aligned with the party. So I feel like I'm stepping a little bit to the side there, like
No,
accidentally shoehorning in another thing. But
kind of fair though. Yeah.
I'll swing back around to just being that I like most of the third party content, especially some of the big major stuff that you'll see being produced. And then like if it comes to third party species and stuff, it's like let's work on it together because there's some of
Yeah.
them where it's like, hey, I don't have a plan for that in my world, but I don't want to say no because your
Dude,
idea is really good.
hell yeah. I made a Valkyrie race for G.
Ooh, nice.
Okay, but she doesn't even
Now
know she's a
hold on. When
Valkyrie.
do they fly? Wait a minute. When do they fly?
Exactly. They do fly. They do fly.
When?
Once they get to level 6, they get their wings.
Okay, they're
If
there.
and only if they ascend.
Okay, cool.
At level
cool.
6, they can choose to ascend, which is a really, really interesting thing. They are powered by the runes of Velindor. So the trees that
Okay.
exist, they and I'll attach my the Velindor PDF to like the bio over here. I got an entire like a world kit that people can read for before they start my campaigns.
Right.
That like this is what
Read
this
it.
is that stuff. Yeah, it's really cool. I spent a lot of time on it. You should read it. Totally should read it. It's fun. It's fun. But yeah, I made an entire Valkyrie race because G couldn't find a species that was like for her, right? She's like, I've done
Yeah.
Dragonborn, I've done this, I've done that. I want to try something different, and I was like, so let's make one. Like I've got Valkyries in this realm. What if you didn't even know you were one, and you were born at one of the roots of the trees,
Be
and
cool.
beside you was a wolf, and that wolf was named Skadi. Oh no, sorry, Skull and Hati. It was named Hati.
Yeah, Haji.
Yeah, I had to think about it. Skadi's a different person altogether in
Yeah.
the same world. But she had this companion wolf named Hati, and if you know anything about Norse mythology,
I know a little bit.
Skull and Hearty are the wolves that chased the sun and the moon. And when they caught it,
Yep.
Ragnarok happened.
Ragnarok. Yep. Little
Um,
goosebumps thinking about that. Knowing I'm proud of the old noggin for
yeah.
reading about that in my
So
little Norse
she's
book.
got that. She's got that. She's not playing anymore currently. She's had to take a break
Right.
from D&D, which is super
She
respectable.
busy. She
And we will
busy,
talk
busy.
about that stuff, like not her, but talk about that kind of situation in another episode for sure. Because we are going to need to start wrapping up pretty soon. We're almost at 2 hours, man.
Yes, we
We've been
will.
talking the crap for about 2 hours. This is amazing.
It's easy to do, and I think we've managed to stay decently close to the topic, which I'd like to think
Eh,
this episode's name is probably First Steps. Like the introductions, and like,
first steps. I
not
like
even
it.
first tips, but just first steps.
First steps.
Just
I like it.
like our introductions into it, and then also like the initial, hey, what like thoughts of these things whenever character creating, whenever story building. So
Yeah,
I was thinking about that. I was like, this really feels like a First Steps. Um,
absolutely. We got to find our
when you
bearings.
mentioned the Valkyrie, we
Yeah,
will,
go on.
and with time. This is all new to us.
Definitely.
It's funny you say that because one of the things, there is a goddess of the hunt in my setting that I made for my homebrew pantheon, and whenever I made her, I used one of the pictures of the Valkyrie because I thought it's just such a cool idea. She's the goddess of
Yeah.
hunt and healing, and what I wanted with that to be was that it's just somebody like, and they have the wings, and I even established that the people that Ceciline chooses as her chosen eventually, like whenever they ascend to Ifawin, which is that homebrew settings,
Yep.
heaven, is they will, if they wish, they can have wings as well. And one of my players, she's the barbarian. Um, she just learned that she's a favored of Ceciline. But more than that, she realized last session that or a couple sessions ago, that she is Ceciline's daughter, and that
Oh
is
yes, I remember
not.
you telling me about this. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
one of the things whenever that was finally, it was a huge secret that was revealed because she was trying to keep her safe, because
Yeah.
she's not a demigod, she is a godling, which is to say that her father is also a different
Oh,
god. He is the god of war. And so
yes.
what that will mean is at the end of the campaign, she will be, I was like, hey, listen, I'm going to let you determine what your character is the god of. And we've been playing with the idea because she's a beast tamer. She's going to be the god of beasts in battle, which is just sick, sick, sick. But they gain features from their parents. And so one of the things is that whenever it was finally revealed, Ceciline told Isolde, she said, let me see your back. And she's like, for what? And she's like, I'm looking for something, and she wanted to see if her daughter had gotten her wings. And she said, perhaps they will come soon. And that was me kind of introducing you to the character. I was like, if you're interested, you can choose to have wings at a certain point. Now, I was like, I'm nervous to allow a flyer, but we're level 9. So at a certain point, I have to go, I'm not that scared of it anymore. So,
Mm.
and that may be something we talk about in the comments. Like, hey, are you scared of flyers? Tell us why.
Flyers. I know flyers are fun, and I don't have anything against like flyers in particular. Like I said, it's just pretty much just Cocker that I hate with a passion. But like I enjoy flyers. I enjoy the moment of like I did a whole campaign about dragons that could fly, and the players that could
Right.
ride said dragons. You know what I mean? So it was like,
I'll be doing one of those soon.
oh, so good, so good. Um,
Right.
but yeah, you know what? We're literally running out of time, so I'm gonna stop before I get on a freaking tangent. It's because I
Right.
won't shut up. We'll just keep going, and that's kind of what this is. But for you listeners out there, if any of you want to see more, kind of like behind the scenes how these worlds that we have are built, or you want to know more about them, please let us know in the comments and such like that, and we can do an episode on the breakdown of how we built those worlds, or we can do a full episode on like character creation or world building. Um, what else? If you want to see how I run campaigns live, I stream it every Sunday on Twitch. Ragnarok. Yeah, I'll put a link in there as well. Baz is
Australian time,
also
by the way.
Australian time. Thank you. Baz also streams. Uh,
I
Lots of
do.
D&D content, a few little game content here and there. But definitely should go check us out for sure. I think that would be really, really cool. Beyond that,
Interested in playing, are you? I hear you.
Yes, interested in playing? Absolutely. I have a start playing profile. I am a GM on start playing. If anybody is interested, um, I'll put a link to that as well down there. I'm right about to run that campaign, Blood of
Please
the
do.
Wolf. So if you've heard anything that might sound interesting about, if you've ever wanted to join a Viking style campaign, then I will be running more of those very very soon. It'll be up there very, very soon. Anything else you want to say?
I think that's it, honestly. But be sure to like and subscribe, follow. We appreciate any support that's given. We love comments. If you can, any feedback is good feedback. We'll have the Discord link in the comments as well. So if you're interested in ever trying to, hey, what do you think about this, or tossing ideas at us, just join the Discord, pop in. We'll have a section set up for you to come in and kind of ask questions, or even if you just want to hang out. We love having people that love hanging out and talking D&D. That's kind of our gig, if you didn't know.
Absolutely. So that's probably going to be it for this one, I think. If you have any questions, ideas, or stuff you want us to dig into next time, then drop them off in the comments. We will be posting these on Spotify and on YouTube, and a couple of clips here and there on TikTok and Instagram Reels and such like that. Like I said
Wherever
before,
we
if you
can
want,
put them, honestly.
exactly, yeah, truthfully. Like I said before, if you want to join a table with me, my start playing link will be in the bio. I'll also put both of our Twitch links. Yeah, appreciate you all for listening. We shall see you in the next one.
See ya.
Peace.